Hi there, I'm Rose and welcome to this video where I'm going to share a simple checklist to get your iPhone camera ready for amazing food photography. You don't need to follow every step perfectly, but this checklist will give you a handy guide to set up your iPhone camera for the best results. Just a bit about me, I am a photographer who's lucky to live in one of the most beautiful tourist spots in the Philippines, surrounded by incredible food and diverse cuisines. Over the years, I've honed my craft with a mirrorless camera and artificial lighting, helping small businesses showcase their food and sharing my knowledge through online classes. But after getting some feedback from students who only have an iPhone, I decided it was time for a change. I took inspiration from a Skillshare class about peculiar prompts and decided to challenge myself by using just my iPhone and natural light for a few months for all my projects. So here are some of the photos from this experiment. It was a fantastic experience and I'm excited to share what I've learned with you. In this video, I'll walk you through my iPhone camera settings checklist and share a few tips to help you take beautiful mouth-watering food photos with just your iPhone. To give you a little motivation, let me show you a few before and after photos that highlight the difference being mindful of iPhone camera settings and features can make. First up, keep your iPhone camera lens clean. Imagine this. Just wiping my camera lens with a clean soft cloth made a difference. The second photo looks clear and sharper, showing all the delicious details. Next is being mindful of the exposure settings. We'll play around with the exposure slider later, but for now, check out these before and after photos. The first one looks dull and flat, while the second one, taken with the best exposure settings, looks vibrant and lively. Next, simply tapping to focus. It's a simple step that can make or break an image. Just look at the difference it makes in these photos. Finally, experimenting with the iPhone camera lens. Trying out different lenses can give you different results, as you can see in these examples. So what's the point of all this? These before and after photos show why it's worth taking the time to understand and be mindful of your iPhone camera settings. Don't worry, I'll try my best not to get technical or too technical. I'll explain each setting as quickly and simply as I can. So, let's dive in. In this video, I'll be using my iPhone 15 and cross-checking settings on my husband's iPhone 11 Pro Max. So, let's start by going to Settings, then Camera. We'll skip the video settings and go directly to Formats. You might wonder why start with Formats. Well, configuring the right formats in your iPhone camera settings is important because it allows you to capture high-quality photos while efficiently managing storage space and ensuring compatibility with different devices and platforms. It's a simple but essential step to improve your photography experience on your iPhone. In the Format section, you'll come across options for camera capture and photo capture. If you're using older iPhone models, you'll see camera capture settings. Here, you can choose between high efficiency or HEIF format and most compatible or the JPEG format. Now, which option should you go for? If you plan to edit your photos later on, it's generally a good idea to select the most compatible format, which is JPEG for iPhones. JPEG files are widely accepted and can be easily opened and edited in various photo editing software, such as Lightroom for mobile. Lightroom provides extensive editing features for JPEG files, allowing you to adjust exposure, color, contrast, and more without significant loss of quality. Moreover, JPEG files are smaller in size compared to formats like HEIF, making them simpler to handle and share. They also demand less processing power and storage space, which is great when dealing with a lot of photos in your editing application. In photo mode, most iPhones default to 12 megapixels. When you take a photo in 12MP mode, the camera grabs images with a resolution of 12 million pixels. This resolution works well for everyday photography and sharing on social media. It strikes a good balance between image quality and file size. If you choose the 24 megapixel option, you're opting for higher resolution. This means the camera captures more details, resulting in larger image files. As a result, you get sharper details, especially when you zoom in. Since each image contains more pixels, the file size will be bigger, so ensure your device has enough storage space. Additionally, if you plan to print your photos or need high-quality images for professional purposes, 24 megapixels can deliver better results. If you have the Pro version of the newer iPhones, you'll have the option for Pro RAW, which allows you to take raw photos on your iPhone. This is great because it preserves more image data, providing greater flexibility and control in post-processing or editing. With higher image quality, better dynamic range, and finer details compared to standard formats like JPEG or HEIF, Pro RAW enables you to capture the visual appeal of dishes with professional level results. I have a mirrorless camera that can shoot RAW, which is why I initially chose the iPhone 15. However, I am now considering upgrading to the Pro version in my next iPhone upgrade because of this feature. But even if you don't have the iPhone Pro models, you can still enable resolution control where your main camera can take photos at a whopping 4 to 8 megapixels. This means incredibly detailed images with more pixels, perfect for situations where you want to capture every nuance. However, it's important to note that higher resolution doesn't always guarantee better photos. Factors like lighting, composition, and storytelling play a significant role. But having this massive resolution is super beneficial, especially if you plan to print your food photos. Next, let's head back to camera settings and navigate to preserve settings. Personally, I like to turn on all the options here because it allows me to preserve certain camera settings between different camera sessions. When this feature is enabled, it ensures that specific settings you've chosen remain the same the next time you open the camera app. This is especially important for me, particularly the exposure adjustment setting. If you've manually adjusted the exposure or the brightness level using the exposure slider in the camera app, enabling preserve settings will keep this exposure adjustment for subsequent photos you take. By preserving these settings, you can maintain your preferred camera configurations and shooting modes across different camera sessions. This saves you time and effort from having to readjust them every time you open the camera app. It's a convenient feature for those of us who frequently use specific camera settings or shooting modes and want to ensure consistency in our photography experience on our iPhones. Let's revisit the camera settings once more. This time, navigate to composition. Here, you have the option to turn on the grid, level, mirror, front camera, and view outside the frame. While we won't be using the mirror front camera since we're not taking selfies, it's crucial to have the grid and level turned on. These features can greatly assist you with framing and composition, ensuring that your photos are well balanced and aligned. As for the view outside the frame option, it's a matter of personal preference. Some may find it helpful while others might find it distracting. Ultimately, the decision to enable this feature is up to you and what works best for your photography style. Moving on to the next section under photo capture, we have photography styles, portraits in photo mode, prioritize faster shooting, and lens correction. Personally, I don't use any predefined photography styles because I prefer to manually edit all my photos for a natural yet polished look, so I'll skip this option. I do, however, enable portraits in photo mode. This feature allows you to capture photos with a blurred background and professional-looking lighting effects directly from your iPhone camera. It's perfect for achieving delicious results with depth and visual impact. As for the priority of faster shooting, I keep this option off since we'll be photographing food and not fast-moving subjects like sports or wildlife. By disabling this option, the camera prioritizes accuracy over speed, resulting in more precise autofocus, exposure calculation, and image processing for each shot. This is particularly beneficial for still life photography like food photography, where capturing the perfect moment is more important than shooting speed. Finally, I enable lens correction. This feature helps improve the overall appearance of your photos by correcting optical distortions commonly associated with wide-angle lenses. If you frequently shoot with wide-angle lenses or notice noticeable distortions in your photos, it's recommended to keep lens correction enabled to ensure your images are as accurate and true to life as possible. I know that's a lot for a checklist, but don't worry. You only need to set this up once, and then you can tweak a few settings as you progress in your iPhone food photography journey. But wait, we're not done yet. We will explore the camera app or the built-in camera app on your iPhone. While you can use third-party camera apps if you prefer, for this video, we'll focus on getting the most out of the built-in camera of your iPhone. So again, I'll be using my iPhone 15 and checking settings on my husband's iPhone 11 Pro Max to show you how to make the most of it. When you launch the camera app, here's what you'll see on older models compared to newer ones. Not much has changed. The main difference are the missing cinematic mode for videos and the JPEG Max, which is the 48 megapixel resolution on the iPhone 11. When you tap on the tiny arrow pointing down, you'll see a variety of options. The only one missing on my husband's iPhone 11 is the white balance option. The rest looks the same. So let's start exploring. So let's start with the settings and features when you press the down arrow button. So first, you have the option to set the flash to auto, on, or off. Since we are utilizing natural light, we'll leave this off. Next is the live feature where you can capture sharp photos of moving subjects. Since we are taking photos of food, we can just turn this off. Next, you have the option to take photos using standard, rich contrast, vibrant, warm, and cool. You also have the option to set the tone and warmth here at the bottom. I personally like to edit my photos manually, so I'm leaving this at standard. Next is the aspect ratio. You have the options for 4:3, square, and 16:9. Again, I'm leaving it at standard 4:3 because it's more balanced for me. Next is the exposure slider. Here you can increase or decrease brightness depending on how you want your photos to look and depending on the lighting condition. You also have a timer feature here. You can use it for lifestyle photos where you want to include your hands or yourself in your food photos. You can set it to 3 or 10 seconds. Last icon here is for different filters. So you have original, vivid, vivid warm, vivid cool, dramatic, dramatic warm, dramatic cool, silver tone, and nawar. I'm sure there are moments where you can use and maximize these filters, but since we're photographing food, I will keep things looking natural and stick with the original. And that's it for the settings that you can adjust here on the camera app. On the left-hand side, you also have the shortcut for flash and for adjusting the exposure. Remember the resolution control that we turned on from settings earlier? That's why you can see the JPEG Max here on the right-hand side. If you don't want the maximum 48 megapixel resolution, you can just turn this off. You can also turn the live photo option on or off here. Most of the time, I have this off, except for when I'm photographing motion like pour shots and sprinkles. Now, let's get ready to really take photos. So let's see the magic that we can do here in the camera app. First, you have the tap to set focus and exposure. This allows for you to manually control exposure levels by tapping on different areas of the frame. To use this feature, simply tap on the screen at the desired focus point. The iPhone will adjust both focus and exposure based on the tapped area. You can tap on the brightest and darkest areas of the scene to balance exposure and ensure proper brightness throughout the image. Apart from tap to set exposure, you also have the exposure compensation feature. To access exposure compensation controls on the iPhone camera app, tap on the screen to set focus, then swipe up or down to adjust exposure manually. When you're happy with your exposure, you can take a photo. You also have the option to lock your focus and exposure by pressing and holding the focus point until the AEAF lock indicator appears. This locks both focus and exposure settings, ensuring that they remain constant even as you recompose the shot. Locking exposure helps ensure consistent brightness throughout your photo session, resulting in more uniform and professional-looking images. Next, let's talk about the lenses. On most iPhones, you have the options for wide, standard, and telephoto. The wide lens gives you a super wide view, capturing a lot in one shot. It's great for big scenes, group photos, and when you want to show more in your picture. The exact focal length can vary, but it's usually around 12 to 13 millimeters equivalent if you're used to old school film cameras. The wide lens also has a larger aperture, meaning smaller f number, so it lets in more light, which is awesome for low light situations. So when should you use the wide lens? Well, whenever you want to show off lots of space and context. Next up is the standard lens. This one gives you a view that's close to what your eyes naturally see. It's not too wide or too zoomed in, just balance. It's usually around 26 to 28 millimeters equivalent, which is kind of like the normal view for photography. The standard lens often has a moderate aperture, so it works well in different lighting situations. This lens will likely be your go-to for taking food photos because it's so versatile. Finally, we have the telephoto lens. This lens gives you a closer look at your subject without having to move physically closer. It has a narrower field of view compared to the wide and standard lenses. Typically, it's around 52 millimeters equivalent or even longer, depending on your iPhone model. Newer models might offer longer telephoto ranges. The telephoto lens usually has a smaller aperture, meaning higher f number, which means it lets in less light but still performs well in good lighting. It's great for capturing detailed shots from a distance and for creating that beautiful blurred background effect, or what we call bokeh. This lens is my favorite for taking mouth-watering food photos because it lets you focus on the details and texture. Pro iPhone models may also come with extra lenses like ultra-wide or macro lenses, giving you even more creative options. Each lens type has its unique benefits depending on what you want to capture and the perspective you want in your food photos. I know it can all seem overwhelming at first, but the key here is to practice. The more you play around with these buttons and take photos, the better you'll get. Your iPhone photography skills will improve, and you'll be capturing delicious food photos in no time. If you enjoyed this video, I have some great news. I have a full class on Skillshare where I teach not only iPhone camera settings, but also my proven and tested food photography tips and tricks and the magic of natural lighting. In this class, I share live demos of my indoor and outdoor photo shoots using an iPhone, plus a step-by-step guide on editing with an iPhone to achieve that polished, delicious, and professional look. And there's more. If you haven't signed up for Skillshare before, the first 100 people to click the link in the description will get a 1-month free trial. So, are you ready to dive in? Click the link in the description below and I'll see you in class. Bye for now!